AM 1240, 95.3 FM WJON. Joining me now, Star Tribune sports columnist Jim Souhan. Jim's appearance this morning being brought to you by the Green Mill of downtown St. Cloud. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Lee.
Well, the Twins get the win, but they lose Byron Buxton again. I guess I look at this division as probably one that's going to kind of come down to the wire here late in the season, right?
Well, I've been thinking that if the Twins keep losing players, I don't know how they can hang in there. I mean, they're hanging in there. It was a very impressive game last night. Went up against a guy with a 3.03 ERA, and they scored 6 runs in the second inning, and they beat a really good team. So, you know, they are hanging in there, and they're in pretty good position in the wild card race. But you know, how many more players can lose? Correa's not close to coming back. Now Buxton's out again. Brock Stewart's out for the season. Joe Ryan might be out for the season. They have basically between Zepper, Varland, Simeon Woods Richardson, and Festa, they basically have 4 people, four rookies or virtual rookies in the rotation. I mean, I don't know. Last night they had a great inning. Willie Castro with a big home run. Royce Lewis another home run. They find a way to win it, but I just don't know how many more losses they can afford, how many personnel losses they can afford.
Starting another rookie pitcher tonight, Zebby Matthews. You know anything about this guy?
Yeah, he was like an 8th-round draft pick in 2022, and he just rose incredibly fast through the organization, dominated most levels, did not dominate at AAA, but his secondary numbers were pretty good. They're hoping that the high ERA at AAA was more of a function of bad luck or a couple of bad pitches. But he shot through the organization, and he could be a great find. He's as good a pitching prospect as they have right now. Now he's a young guy stepping into the middle of a pennant race. We'll see how he handles it. I will also say that, as I wrote about, I mean, what a joy to have Royce Lewis on the team. What a joy to see Bobby Witt Jr. and Royce Lewis as young stars in this division who could be playing against each other for a long time. I talked to Royce after the game about Bobby Witt, and he's like, basically, I love the guy. I want to get to know him. I want to learn how he stays healthy. I want to work out with him in Texas. They both live in Texas in the offseason. Just great stuff from Royce last night, both on the field and in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, he sure is a breath of fresh air. I saw the snippet when Wallner had a home run the other day, and Royce couldn't have been more excited for his teammate.
Royce probably has, the easy way to put it, he probably has the best personality of any athlete in the Twin Cities since Kirby Puckett. And in some ways it might even be better. And I covered Kirby, and I thought very highly of Kirby as a ball player and as a teammate. But Royce might even be better. Kirby is incredibly accessible, and Kirby is great in the context of the clubhouse where people are just, saying funny things on the fly, needling each other, instigating. He was great like that. Didn't always translate into print. You ask Royce a question, he will give you a great answer. He is so attuned to being a public figure and so willing to share his thoughts and to be a really interesting, fun guy. And it's not selfishness. He loves his teammates. He kind of gets it. He gets that this is this is the optimal way for a young star to behave.
Yeah, and he just needs to stay on the field, and great things are going to happen. I haven't paid attention to his most recent start, but I did see, it was about a week ago, it was a national baseball show, and they were talking about Bailey Ober not getting enough national attention. Do you think that's a fair assessment? Should Bailey Ober be getting talked about more often?
I'm always fascinated by this line of talk radio talk. So you're telling me a national TV show was talking about him and saying he's not getting enough national attention?
Correct.
Does that make any sense?
I guess it was one anchor who kind of threw in that they were behind Bailey Ober. It wasn't the entire panel.
It's just the easy thing to say. It's just an easy talk radio thing. This guy isn't getting enough attention. You put it in it's non-factual. It's something that it's just something you can debate without having any fact. Bailey Ober is a very good pitcher. He's pitching very well for a contender. I think that shows that know baseball and care to talk about anybody other than the Yankees and the Dodgers are very aware of Bailey Ober. I think fantasy players are very aware of him. And I think every baseball fan is aware of Bailey Ober. If people on national TV shows want to talk more about him, great. If they want to talk less about him, I don't care. I don't care about that stuff. It has nothing to do with anything. He just needs to win games.
Now that the Olympics are over, the Minnesota Lynx will return to action. Cheryl Reeve, a gold medal coach. Nafisha Collier, a gold medal player. What do you expect from the Lynx here in the second half?
Well, they faded at the end of the first. They're still overachieving. They're tied for third in the league. They were thought to be a middle-of-the-pack team. They're coming off 2 losing seasons. So they are, compared to expectations going into the season, they're in great shape. But we have seen some slippage. We've seen, Collier had the injury toward the end there. Alana Smith was great early. She wasn't quite as great as the last month before the Olympic break. So they still have a lot to prove. They still have a lot to hang on to. If they ended the season with the 3rd seed, that's a huge win for the franchise. And a huge victory for Reeve as both a coach and a general manager who found some appreciated assets like Williams and Smith. But I don't know if I think they're going to have to play better than they did to hold on to that spot. I think some of the better teams in the league are going to start getting hot. They're going to start peaking toward the playoffs. So it's going to be a bigger challenge to stay in third now than it was to get into 3rd place in the first place.
Backtracking just a moment. I should have asked you about this earlier. The Olympic women's basketball team capturing gold and the fact that it was such a remarkable run and their record, all-time winningest team in Olympic history. How much is that going to do for fans maybe tuning into the WNBA versus when Caitlin Clark came into the league?
I actually think that we're past the point now of having to be like, oh my God, this will help the women's game. Oh, maybe this will help the women's game. The women's game is there. I mean, they're not there financially, but in terms of national attention, international attention, TV ratings rising, Caitlin Clark already having an impact on the way people watch the game. I just think, it's just a matter of continuing just to add on the casual fan, add on that casual fan who for some reason didn't like women's basketball or just didn't want to adopt another sport. It's all there now. It's just a matter of just continue. It's like the NBA in the days when they didn't put the finals on primetime TV. The players were great. The teams were great. The product was great. They just had to have just kind of continue to grow the awareness to get to the point where they have critical mass and the national networks and the advertisers realize, oh yeah, we want to invest in this heavily and upfront. So I think it's all there. It's just everything's in place now, including very good TV ratings. It's just a matter of adding on.
Jim, J.J. McCarthy held out of last night's Monday night practice at TCO Stadium as a precaution due to some knee soreness. What do you know about this? And I suppose fans are going to overreact, right?
And I don't really blame them. If you're a fan, you want to get excited about J.J. McCarthy. You want to think this guy's, you want to get out over your skis and start celebrating the fact that there's a very promising young quarterback on a team that hardly ever has promising young quarterbacks. So I get it. And it's a sore knee. It could be absolutely nothing. Could be one of those injuries that ends up meaning more to us later. We just don't know. The first big decision is, do they take him to Cleveland for the joint practices in that preseason game, or they just let him rest up? Obviously, as I've written and my colleagues have said many times based on their reporting, Sam Darnold's the starter on this team, and if J.J. McCarthy can't even get first-team reps this week, that just means that he doesn't even get a chance to change their minds. But yeah, you just never know with an injury. I mean, it's like Byron Buxton. He could be out a day. He could be out 3 weeks. We don't know.
As a fan, I go through these preseason games and training camp, and I'm trying to keep my excitement level in check. And I watched J.J. McCarthy last weekend, and I wasn't quite sure how to really frame it in my mind because I realize it's preseason, it's base defenses, second team defenses in some instances here. But your colleague Michael Rand had a column that I thought really kind of hit the nail on the head. There's something about J.J. McCarthy. He's got a moxie about him. He's not cocky, but he seems confident and has got a record of winning. So, I mean, that in and of itself should give Vikings fans some confidence.
But Here's the thing, bro. Here's the problem with valuing quarterbacks like that. Christian Ponder seemed to have a lot. Now, he didn't win a national championship, but he was a winning quarterback in college. He had stage presence. He gave good interviews. He was, I could name 100 college quarterbacks who won in college, came into the NFL, and people liked them in camp, and they looked good. I mean, there's just so much more to it. If it were that easy, then the Vikings wouldn't still be looking for a quarterback. So what really comes down to is the ability to put a massive amount of work into it, to maximize your athletic ability, to be able to stay healthy, to be able to read NFL defenses, and to be able to adapt and make split-second decisions and split-second throws. Reminds me when the Vikings brought in Brett Favre. I thought, man, this guy's too old. He's coming off an injured season. What are they doing? Then I covered his first preseason game. And again, preseason, right? But you could just see the processing time, the quickness of reading defense, deciding where to go with the ball, and getting the ball there was so much better than anything I'd ever seen in person before with the Vikings quarterback. That's the difference. Can he do those things against an NFL defense that has spent all week trying to plan ways to take his head off? And that's why preseason can fool you. You just don't know until he's put in that situation.
Stephon Gilmore visited yesterday, left without a deal. Is this still open-ended? Could he still come to the Vikings?
I think the sense is that there's real interest on both sides. Now it's a matter but if a guy held out this long, he's obviously looking for a certain dollar figure. So it's just a negotiation at this point. I think the Vikings want him. I think he looks at playing for Brian Flores and playing for what should be an improved defense as a good thing. He'd be the number one corner here. Now it's just a money negotiation.
All right, we're out of time, Jim, but I know you've got a lot of content up on your podcast, especially some stuff about Vikings. Where do we find you, and what should we look for?
Yeah, we do the Jeff Diamond Show with the former Vikings general manager. We also do the Viking Update Show. Those shows haven't been, we haven't put up our new this week's cycle yet. Those will be out later in the week and kind of previewing the next preseason game. There's a good John Krasinski show on Anthony Edwards is up. Kevin Gorg on hockey, Michael Russo on hockey, John Millay on preps. Don Mitchell's interview show, where we also talk some local sports and interview really cool people around the state, and outdoor content, and everything's at talknorth.com.
Jim, appreciate your time. As always, we'll talk tomorrow.
Thanks, Lee.
Jim Souhan, Star Tribune sports columnist, joining us here every weekday morning at 7:15. Jim's appearance being brought to you by the Green Mill of downtown St. Cloud.